Welcome to election night in America. Joe Biden and Donald Trump will face off in an election tonight to see who will become the next president of the United States of America. Will it be Joe Biden or will it be Donald Trump in his bid for re-election? Before we start, let me know in the comments below what election nights you want us to do on this channel, and make sure to check out our Instagram page down below. The link will be at the top of the description box. So without further ado, let's begin. The first round of polls have just closed, and we can now make our first projection of the night in the state of Vermont. With 31% of the vote in the state of Vermont, we can now project Joe Biden carries the state of Vermont in its 3 electoral votes. We can also project the state of Indiana for Donald Trump. With 31% of the vote in, Donald Trump carries the state of Indiana in its 11 electoral votes. In the state of Florida, 53% of the vote is in. It is still currently too close to call. Joe Biden maintains a small 1-point lead over Donald Trump. In the state of New Hampshire, only 36% of the vote is in. It is still too close to call. Donald Trump maintains a slim lead over Joe Biden. In the state of South Carolina, only 12% of the vote is in. Donald Trump maintains a sizable lead over Joe Biden. In the state of Virginia, 28% of the vote is in. Donald Trump maintains a sizable lead over Joe Biden, almost 14 points over Joe Biden, but it is still very early. It is too early to call in the state of Virginia. In the state of Georgia, only 4% of the vote is in. Joe Biden maintains a slim 1-point lead over Donald Trump, still too early to call. Now let's go ahead and take a look at our electoral map. Donald Trump is currently sitting at 19 electoral votes to Joe Biden's 3 electoral votes. In order to win the presidency, you need 270 electoral votes to become the next president of the United States of America. And now we have a new round of poll closings. We can now project for Donald Trump that Donald Trump will win the state of West Virginia. 0% of the vote is in, but we can officially project that Donald Trump will win the state of West Virginia. We can also project that Donald Trump carries the state of South Carolina in its 9 electoral votes. This is a projection we can now make. In the state of Ohio, with only 19% of the vote in, it is still too early to call. This is going to be a big swing state of the night. We'll see who comes out on top, but Donald Trump maintains a slim lead over Joe Biden as of right now. In the state of North Carolina, 9% of the vote is in. It is still too close to call and too early to call. This is going to be a big state of the night with its 15 electoral votes. North Carolina is still too early to call. Let's go ahead and take a look at our map once again. All the white states are currently states that are still outstanding. Red states are the ones that have been called for Donald Trump, and blue states are the ones that have been called for Joe Biden. Donald Trump has 33 electoral votes to Joe Biden's 3. Remember, once again, you need 270 to win the presidency. We now have another round of poll closings coming in. In the state of Texas, 24% of the vote is in. Donald Trump maintains a lead, but it is still too early to call in the state of Texas. We can now make a projection for Joe Biden in the state of Illinois. With 17% of the vote is in, Joe Biden wins the state of Illinois. In Pennsylvania, only 12% of the vote is in. This is a key swing state in today's election. It is still too early to call in the state of Pennsylvania. In the state of Michigan, less than 1% of the vote is in the state of Michigan. It is still very early. It is too early to call. This is a major swing state of the night. In the state of New Jersey, we can now project that Joe Biden wins the state of New Jersey with its 14 electoral votes. Only 2% of the vote is in, but we can now project that Joe Biden will win the state of New Jersey. We can also project that Joe Biden wins the state of Massachusetts, a big pickup of the night. Joe Biden wins the state of Massachusetts in his 11 electoral votes. We can make another projection for Donald Trump. Donald Trump wins the state of Tennessee. Only 4% of the vote is in, but we can now project that Donald Trump will win the state of Tennessee. We can also project that Donald Trump will win the state of Missouri. Only 18% of the vote is in, but we can now project that Donald Trump wins the state of Missouri in its 10 electoral votes. We can make another projection for Joe Biden in the state of Maryland. Joe Biden wins the state of Maryland in his 10 electoral votes. With only 21% of the vote is in, we can officially project that Joe Biden carries the state of Maryland. We can also project that Donald Trump will win the state of Alabama, a state part of the Deep South. With less than 1% of the vote is in, this is a state that is going in Donald Trump's column. We can also make another projection for Donald Trump in the state of Oklahoma. With only 4% of the vote is in, Donald Trump officially carries the state of Oklahoma and its 7 electoral votes. We can make another projection for Joe Biden in the state of Connecticut. Only 15% of the vote is in, but Joe Biden carries the state of Connecticut. A big pickup for Joe Biden tonight. We can also project that Donald Trump carries the state of Kansas and its 6 electoral votes. Donald Trump officially wins Kansas. Only 2% of the vote is in Mississippi, but we can now project that Donald Trump wins the state of Mississippi. We can make another projection for Joe Biden. Joe Biden wins the state of Rhode Island, part of the blue eastern wall in the East Coast. This is a nice pickup for Joe Biden, and it is a small pickup of 4 electoral votes. In the state of Maine, we can project that Joe Biden wins 3 of the 4 electoral votes in the state of Maine. Maine is one of the 2 states that splits its electoral votes into congressional districts, and so we can only project as of right now 3 of the 4 electoral votes of Maine. We can now project that Joe Biden wins his home state of Delaware. This is Joe Biden's home state. Not a surprising victory for Joe Biden. He ends up winning his home state of Delaware. We can also project that Joe Biden wins Washington, D.C. and its 3 electoral votes. This is not surprising for Joe Biden, but it is nonetheless a good pickup for Joe Biden. And we can also make one more projection for Donald Trump in the state of South Dakota. He wins the state of South Dakota with only 4% of the vote is in. He now carries the state of South Dakota. Now let's go ahead and take a look at our map and see where our candidates are at. Donald Trump is at 85 electoral votes to Joe Biden's 78. Remember, you need 270 to win. And we are just about to get into new poll closings, and we have more projections to make. And so we can now project that Donald Trump will carry the state of Arkansas. This is another pickup for Donald Trump, adding to his column of electoral votes. We can also make a projection for the state of Virginia. This state has been outstanding for most of the night, but we can now project that with 67% of the vote is in, Joe Biden wins the state of Virginia. We can also project that Donald Trump will win the state of Texas and its massive 38 electoral votes. This is a big pickup for Donald Trump and a really good one for his path to 270. With 48% of the vote is in, we can now project that Texas is in Donald Trump's column. Taking a look at New Hampshire, 81% of the vote is in. It is still too close to call, but Joe Biden maintains a sizable lead over Donald Trump. In the state of Florida, 97.4% of the vote is in, and Donald Trump maintains a very narrow lead over Joe Biden. This is coming down to a nail biter, guys. The votes are almost in. In the state of Ohio, 78.1% of the vote is in, and Donald Trump maintains a 3-point lead over Joe Biden. This is a very close state. Looking at our electoral map, Donald Trump now has 129 electoral votes to Joe Biden's 91, and we now have another round of poll closings. We can now project that with 34% of the vote is in New York, that Joe Biden will carry the state of New York. In Arizona, only 3% of the vote is in. Donald Trump maintains a very large lead over Joe Biden. This is a very competitive state for the night. In the state of Wisconsin, only 13% of the vote is in. Joe Biden maintains a slim lead over Donald Trump. And we can now make a projection for Joe Biden. Joe Biden wins the state of Minnesota. This is a good big pickup for Joe Biden. It was a competitive state in 2016, but in 2020, Joe Biden does manage to take the state of Minnesota. We can now make another projection for Donald Trump. Donald Trump carries the state of Louisiana. This is a good pickup for Donald Trump. We can now make another projection for Joe Biden. Joe Biden carries the swing state of Colorado. This is a big pickup for Joe Biden, adding another swing state to his column. We can also project that Joe Biden wins the state of New Mexico. Another big up for Joe Biden, adding to his electoral total. We can also project that in the state of Nebraska, with 23% of the vote is in, Donald Trump wins 4 out of the 5 electoral votes from Nebraska. This is the second state that splits its electoral votes, and that is Nebraska. We can also project that Donald Trump wins the state of North Dakota, a pickup in the Midwest, in the northern part of the United States. We can also project that the state of Wyoming with 7% of the vote is in. Donald Trump wins the state of Wyoming. In the state of New Hampshire, a key swing state, we can now project that Joe Biden wins the state of New Hampshire. 93.3% of the vote is in the state of New Hampshire. Joe Biden carries the 4 electoral votes in the state of New Hampshire. In the state of Georgia, with 83% of the vote in, we can now officially project that Donald Trump wins the state of Georgia. We can also project in Ohio, 95% of the vote is in. Donald Trump wins the state of Ohio. A key swing state goes into Donald Trump's column. Looking at the map, Donald Trump has 181 electoral votes to Joe Biden's 148. It is getting down to a nail biter, guys, and we are now heading into new poll closings in the western part of the United States. We can now project that Donald Trump wins the state of Utah with 4% of the vote in. This is a projection we can make for Donald Trump. Also in the state of Nevada, we can now project that Joe Biden wins the state of Nevada with 34% of the vote in. This is a key state that Joe Biden has just added to his column. We can also project that Donald Trump will win the state of Idaho and its 4 electoral votes. This is a good pickup for Donald Trump. With only 8% of the vote in, Idaho goes to Trump's column. We can also project that Donald Trump wins the state of Montana, a pickup for Donald Trump. Looking at Iowa, only 23% of the vote. It is too close to call and too early to call in Iowa. This is a key swing state for the night. We'll see how it turns out. And one big state for the night, Pennsylvania, goes in Joe Biden's column. With 83% of the vote in, Joe Biden carries the state of Pennsylvania. This is a key state that Joe Biden has now officially carried. In the state of Michigan, 67% of the vote is in. It is very close between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. Joe Biden maintains a small lead over Donald Trump. In North Carolina, 93% of the vote is in, and Donald Trump holds a slim 2-point lead, or even 1.5-point lead over Joe Biden. In the state of Florida, 98% of the vote is in, and Donald Trump is down 2 points under Joe Biden. This is very, very close. Looking back at our electoral map, it is currently 194 for Donald Trump. Joe Biden has 174. We are slowly approaching the 270 mark. And now we have more poll closings in the West Coast. We can now project that Joe Biden wins the biggest state of them all, California, with 34% of the vote in. Joe Biden wins the state of California. We can also project that Joe Biden wins the state of Washington and its 12 electoral votes. 27% of the vote is currently in. We can also project that Joe Biden, with 4% of the vote in, wins the state of Oregon. This is a big pickup for Joe Biden. He now has won 3 states on the west coast of the United States. Another pickup for Joe Biden is the state of Hawaii. This is another pickup for Joe Biden, adding to his electoral vote total. We can also make a prediction from the key state of Michigan. 89% of the vote is in, and we can now project that Joe Biden wins the state of Michigan. In the state of Wisconsin, 87% of the vote is in. It is very close. It is a nail biter. 51.2 to Donald Trump's 48.3. Joe Biden maintains a slim lead. In the state of Iowa, 76% of the vote is in. Joe Biden maintains a slim lead over Donald Trump. In the state of Arizona, 64% of the vote is in, and Donald Trump maintains a lead over Joe Biden. Looking back at our electoral map, this is insane. Joe Biden has 269 electoral votes. He just needs one more state in order to win the presidency of the United States of America, while Donald Trump is sitting at only 223 electoral votes. And now we have another projection for Joe Biden, with 93% of the vote is in. North Carolina falls into Joe Biden's column. This is a key state, and Joe Biden now carries the state of North Carolina. And now we can make the official projection that Joe Biden is elected the 46th president of the United States of America, defeating incumbent Republican Donald Trump. And so taking a look at our map, Joe Biden has already passed 270, is now at 284, with only 3 states outstanding: Arizona, Iowa, and Wisconsin. With less than 1% of the vote in Alaska, Donald Trump carries the state of Alaska. In Wisconsin, 91% of the vote is in, and we can now project that Joe Biden wins Wisconsin. And in the state of Arizona, 94% of the vote is in. Donald Trump carries the state of Arizona. This is the key state for the night, and Donald Trump carries the state of Arizona. And in the state of Iowa, with 98.8% of the vote is in, Joe Biden carries the state of Iowa. This is the key state for Joe Biden. In Nebraska's 2nd Congressional District, Donald Trump carries the 2nd Congressional District and gets 1 electoral vote from that district. And so looking at our final map, Joe Biden ends the night with 300 electoral votes to Donald Trump's 238, an impressive victory for Joe Biden. Thank you guys so much for watching, and see you guys next time.